The Lazy Peon. What faction should you play in World of Warcraft? It's a question we were all once faced with as new players, but how did you come to make that decision? Was it down to the aesthetics of a certain race, or maybe it was based on lore? More commonly, was it based on what faction your friends played? In this video we're going to look at both Alliance and Horde's factions to try and help new players in deciding what faction is best for them. First off, we're going to start by talking about aesthetics. When I first started playing WoW, I based my faction choice entirely on what race I thought looked cool at the time, and that was an undead. When choosing your faction, aesthetics is an important thing to consider because you don't want to pick a race that you think looks retarded later down the line, as you'll get sick of that character pretty quickly. Another thing you'll notice is that Alliance and Horde have different buildings, armour colours and models. Horde buildings are typically made from wood and are fortified with many spikes, whereas Alliance buildings serve to be more practical and traditional, usually made from stone. Horde armour is typically more bulky, intimidating and spiky than Alliance armour, which is again more practical and regal in its design. On a final note, the Horde has a colour theme of red throughout its capital city, outposts and some armour sets, while the Alliance has a royal blue theme. When deciding on what faction to play, it's totally fine to base your decision on what race you think looks the best. If you still can't decide, however, there's a few more things to consider. Gameplay. Once you decide what faction you want to be, you've also decided what areas you'll be levelling up in. You see, both Alliance and Horde have different levelling experiences, with faction-specific quest lines and some zones only containing quests for a certain faction. For example, there's no Horde quests in the Elven Forest, the same way there's no Alliance quests in the Barrens. If you decide you only ever want to be one faction, you're basically limiting yourself to only see half the quest lines in the game. Another gameplay aspect to consider is racial abilities, and this is an ability exclusive to your race that will help you out during combat. Some racial abilities are better than others. For example, if you're a human, you have the best PvP racial in the game called Every Man for Himself, which acts as a PvP trinket, basically meaning you have an extra trinket slot to put extra stats in at endgame. Trolls also have a strong racial ability for raiding called Berserking, that increases haste by 15% for 10 seconds. Racials are something to consider if you want to be a PvPer or raider at max level. The lore. From a new player's point of view logging in for the first time, you'll probably identify the Horde as the bad guys and the Alliance as the good guys, but you'll soon find out that nothing in World of Warcraft is black and white. The reason for the hatred between these two factions mainly comes down to events that happened between them in the past. The Orcs came to Azeroth through the Dark Portal as an expedition whilst under the influence of the Burning Legion, who were the real bad guys in Warcraft, and started invading human settlements. The humans eventually drove the invasion back, captured survivors, putting them in internment camps, and sealed off the Dark Portal. The Orc Thrall then escaped from his camp known as Durnhold Keep, and rallied together some Orc forces before escaping to the land of Kalimdor, where they killed the demon Manarov and set the Orcs free from demonic corruption. Thrall then offered refuge to other races such as the Trolls, Tauren, Undead and Blood Elves in the land of Durotar under the name of the Horde. The Alliance, however, didn't feel comfortable with these races living together as the Horde, with the memory of the previous violence between the corrupted Orcs in the First and Second Wars burnt into their minds. As a result of this, fighting between the two factions has been constant throughout the years, with the occasional truce when faced with a larger threat. Lore is an important thing to consider when choosing your faction, as it gives you a sense of what you're fighting for throughout your adventures in Warcraft, and it really adds depth to the game from a role-playing and immersion perspective. I'd recommend doing a little bit of reading on what each faction stands for, as it could help you decide whether or not you want to fight for them. Here's a brief description of each faction, starting with the Horde. The Horde is made up of Orcs, Forsaken, Tauren, Trolls, Blood Elves, Goblins, and most recently, the Pandaren. Misunderstood and cast aside, these diverse and powerful races strive to overcome their differences and unite as one in order to win freedom for their people and prosper in a land that has come to hate them. In the Horde, action and strength are valued above diplomacy, and its leaders earn respect by the blade, wasting no time with politics. The brutality of the Horde's champions is focused, giving a voice to those who fight for survival. The Alliance are made up of humans, night elves, dwarves, gnomes, Draenei, Worgen, and most recently the Pandaren. Proud and noble, courageous and wise, these races work together to preserve order in Azeroth. The Alliance are driven by honour and tradition. Its rulers are champions of justice, hope, knowledge and faith. In a time when chaos and uncertainty reign, the Alliance remains steadfast in its determination to bring light to the darkest corners of the world. To answer the question of what faction you should pick, I'd have to say both. As a player who for years only played Horde, I can honestly say that having characters on both Alliance and Horde is much better, as you get to see both sides of the story, experience all the zones in the game, and play characters on the opposite faction to keep things new and interesting if you're getting bored. So that's it for this video guys. Let me know in the comments below what made you decide on which faction to choose when you first started playing. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe to my channel for more variety World of Warcraft content. I hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.